Hi, I'm Ems, aka on Deck and Wings. You might already be aware that I love making and painting terrain for tabletop miniatures. So I thought it'd be a fun novelty to try and make some small scale terrain and see what was out there for the new Warhammer Horus Heresy Legion Imperialis game. Also, I couldn't stop thinking about that scene in Zoolander where he flips over the school saying it's a school for ants. It just kind of made me think of this game. Anyway, obviously, this isn't the first foray into small-scale miniatures which Games Workshop has done. There's Titanicus and the more aptly related Epic, which makes it a little bit more easier for me to think about what terrain I'd use for the Horus Heresy game. There is a bunch of small-scale terrain out there which you can 3D print. You can narrow down your search by looking for small-scale terrain, epic terrain, 6mm terrain. There's quite a lot out there. Obviously, there are other tabletop games which are small scale and science fiction, but you could also just get some bigger terrain pieces and scale them down if you're more comfortable with using a 3D printer. So here are a couple pieces I 3D printed myself. This looks like a small fortress. It kind of reminds me of something from the game Dawn of War. I also printed out some small proxy space warrior type guys just to get a feel for the scale of this game. And they actually fit on top of this, which I think is pretty cool. Piece I did was this like administrative type of building, so it has that gothic grimdark look to it, and I cut this one in half so it looks more like a ruin structure. I'll try and link the files below in the description. I printed both of these using Xiaojin's Easy Print 8K resin. The company's kindly sent me out 4 bottles of different colours of this resin. I've used the grey so far, and I was really impressed with this. It's high precision resin, and needs something that's more detailed. I printed with it. I'll pop the link in the description below where you can get it from. So here are the structures painted up. So I'll go through how I painted them. I was basically going for like a brutalist architecture / utilitarian kind of look for this. I primed both of these using a cheap heavy-bodied acrylic paint. You can save some money by using this type of paint when it comes to terrain because you're not bothered as much about the details on them as you are with actual miniatures. However, I did use some proper model paint for the rest of it. So I mixed flayed one flesh in with Dawnstone and dry brushed that all over. And I used that black paint previously and thinned it down and washed it all over. And then what I did was just get the flayed one flesh and went over them both and added some highlights. So again, going for that off-white utilitarian type of colour scheme. It just looks that a bit more interesting rather than just using grey and blacks. I also hand-made some terrain because I really enjoy hand-making terrain. So these bits were actually from used up egg cartons. I cut them up and they look sort of like industrial silos type of thing. In between them I glued in some straws to look like piping. The structure of this is basically cardboard. I glued 2 pieces together to make it more structurally sound. I added some textured basin paste to the top of it to make it look like it's some sort of Martian earth. Of course I use Vallejo's sandy paste, which is always my go-to. I also made this radioactive looking silo. I know this is a bit more arts and craftsy looking, but it was fun to make. I made this out of an espresso type of cup. You can bulk buy these. I have these for a couple different reasons, you know, mixing paint and things like that. I like this because it had like a lip on it, so I could make like a water effect in it. So I painted that green and added some different green colours to it. And then I added some Vallejo water texture to it, so it looks like it's a radioactive pool on top of it. I also added a straw to make it look like a pipe. The paper straws aren't as good as plastic ones used to be. And then I also added some sandy paste from Vallejo to make it look like some verdigris had built up. I just painted it up in an off-white ivory colour, keeping in theme with that utilitarian, brutalist type of thing. To create the rust effects, I just kept it simple, so I used the Vallejo oxide wash and sepia tone from Citadel to make it look like oil and grease. There is another option, obviously, if you don't want to 3D print or hand make terrain. My friend Richard over at Rock Minis sells a lot of fantasy, sci-fi and urban small-scale terrain. I'll pop the link in the description below where you can get these from. Obviously, I'm not saying don't go out and buy the official Games Workshop kits, but it's nice to have the options to customize and make your own and find other things. So here are the final results of the terrain I printed and made myself, all painted up. I think they look pretty cool. And of course, I painted up some small scale lamenters to go along with these. So I hope this video gave you some inspiration. As always, thank you for watching. Remember to enjoy your hobbies for yourself, respect that people enjoy them in their own ways, and at the end of the day, they're just war delis. I'll see you in the next one.